I've worked with a lot of people who've expressed an interest in phasing into retirement rather than coming to a hard stop with their career. Often these folks enjoy what they do, they like their coworkers, but they're ready for some more personal time to maybe pursue some passions that they just haven't been able to get to. But a related question that often is posed to me is, will working part-time negatively impact my ultimate Social Security benefits? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today, along with some additional considerations. Let's get going. Now, the most important thing you need to know is Social Security is based on your highest 35 years of inflation-adjusted earnings. So what that means is if you already have 35 years of working history, taking a low-paying job in the remainder years that you're working is going to have no impact on your Social Security benefits. Now, that being said, let me just mention a couple other considerations that I would be thinking about as it relates to this question. Number one, if you are someone who is relatively young, let's say you're only in your 50s and you don't have 35 years of working history, well, it is important to understand that, especially if you're someone with higher earnings, say 150,000 plus, if you go from 150,000 down to say 50,000 or less, those lower earnings are going to be part of your 35-year average. Now, the good news is because it is a 35-year average, if it's just 1, 2, 3 years, it's not going to have an outsized impact on the calculation for what your benefits ultimately are. But nonetheless, if you are someone who's you're at your peak earning years, you might want to be thinking about that as you assess this decision. Now, in addition, I've got to add that the scenario in which this issue needs to be scrutinized the most is one in which a person, number one, has less than 35 years of earnings history. So again, they're probably relatively young. And number two, that person is the breadwinner within a couple. Now, the reason this can be a much more significant issue for breadwinners is because of spousal Social Security benefits and survivor benefits. For example, my mom and dad had a very classic marriage. Mother stayed at home raising kids, where my dad was out working, making a living. Because my mother had very minimal earnings throughout her career, she would not get much from Social Security. Instead, she's entitled to a spousal benefit, which, to keep things simple, is 50% of my dad's full retirement age Social Security benefit. In addition, if my dad were to predecease her, she would be entitled to a survivor benefit, which would mean she would take on his full benefit, hers would go away, and she would collect that survivor benefit for the rest of her life. Now, I'm probably being a little bit too long-winded, but my point here is, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, my dad had decided to retire at age 50, and he, at that point in time, only had 30 years of working history. Well, that decision from a Social Security standpoint would not only affect his benefits, but it would, in addition, affect her benefits based on spousal and Social Security survivor benefits. All right, well, to wrap this up, again, I just want to emphasize that if you are someone who already has 35 years of working history, then taking a big pay cut at the end of your career is not going to negatively impact your Social Security benefits. But again, as we talked about, it's a little bit more nuanced if you're someone with less than 35 years of working history, and especially if you're someone who's a breadwinner, you got to remember your spouse. Remember, your decision ultimately will impact spousal benefits and Social Security survivor benefits. But anyway, I want to say thanks for watching today. As always, I hope we'll see you in the next one.